For quite a few weeks, we've been following Narad's answers to the complaints and questions of Savitri's mother, who asks about why, how has pain and suffering come into this world. And he's given some very complex, thought-provoking, interesting answers. And last week, when we completed this section, which ends on page 456, we came to the end of his answers to Savitri's mother. So now, today, we find her father, we find Asvapati asking a question to Narad. And Narad again will give quite a long answer, which will complete the canto. Then Asvapati answered to the seer, "Is then the spirit ruled by an outward world? O seer, is there no remedy within? But what is fate, if not the spirit's will, after a long time fulfilled by cosmic force? I deemed a mighty power had come with her. Is not that power the high compeer of fate? But Narad answered, covering truth with truth, O Asvapati, random seem the ways along whose banks your footsteps stray or run in casual hours or moments of the gods. Yet your least stumblings are foreseen above. Infallibly the curves of life are drawn, following the stream of time through the unknown. They are led by a clue the calm immortals keep. This blazoned hieroglyph of prophet mourns, a meaning more sublime in symbols writes than sealed thought wakes to. But of this high script, how shall my voice convince the mind of earth? Heaven's wiser love rejects the mortal's prayer. Unblinded by the breath of his desire, unclouded by the mists of fear and hope, it bends above the strife of love with death. It keeps for her her privilege of pain. A greatness in thy daughter's soul resides that can transform herself and all around, but must cross on stones of suffering to its goal. Although designed like a nectar cup of heaven, of heavenly ether made, she sought this air. She too must share the human need of grief, and all her cause of joy transmute to pain. The mind of mortal man is led by words. His sight retires behind the walls of thought and looks out only through half-opened doors. He cuts the boundless truth into sky strips, and every strip he takes for all the heavens. He stares at infinite possibility and gives to the plastic vast the name of chance. He sees the long results of an all-wise force planning a sequence of steps in endless time, but in its links imagines a senseless chain or the dead hand of cold necessity. He answers not to the mystic mother's heart, misses the ardent heavings of her breast, and feels cold, rigid limbs of lifeless law. The will of the timeless, working out in time, in the free, absolute steps of cosmic truth. He thinks a dead machine or unconscious fate. A magician's formulas have made matter's laws, and while they last, all things by them are bound. But the Spirit's consent is needed for each act, and freedom walks in the same pace with law. All here can change if the magician choose. If human will could be made one with God's, if human thought could echo the thoughts of God, man might be all-knowing and omnipotent. But now he walks in nature's doubtful ray. Yet can the mind of man receive God's light? The force of man can be driven by God's force. Then is he a miracle doing miracles. For only so can he be nature's king. It is decreed, and Shraddhavan must die. The hour is fixed, chosen the fatal stroke. What else shall be is written in her soul. But till the hour reveals the fateful script, the writing waits illegible and mute. We'll go this way. This way.
Then Aswapati answered to the seer, "Is then the spirit ruled by an outward world? O seer, is there no remedy within? But what is fate, if not the spirit's will, after a long time fulfilled by cosmic force? I deemed the mighty power had come with her. Is not that power the high compeer of fate?"
So it's actually 4 questions that he asks. No? Aswapati answers Narad, all these explanations of Narad. He answers with some more questions. The first 2 are different ways of putting the same question. He says, is the spirit ruled by the outer world, by the world of matter? Shouldn't the spirit be stronger and freer than the outward world? So now here is my daughter facing this dreadful fate. Isn't there any remedy within? Isn't there an inner solution to this situation? Is there no remedy, no cure? And then he says this seems to be her fate and Satyavan's fate. But what is fate? Isn't it the will of the spirit working out in time, being fulfilled after a long time by the workings of force in the universe? Isn't that what fate is? Something that's been willed by the spirit? And then he says, I deemed a mighty power had come with her. I thought that Savitri has brought a very, very great power with her when she came into the world. He thinks that because Savitri has been born in response to his prayer to the Supreme Divine Mother to send a portion of herself or a representative of herself into the world. So he says, isn't that power that came with Savitri, isn't that as powerful as fate? Fate may be the spirit's will, but this power that has come with Savitri, surely that must be as powerful. So these are the questions that he asks. Let's see how Narad.
Compare means? Compare means?
A compeer means an equal. Very often we will just say peer. We talk about peer groups in school, you know, the children who are the same age, who are equal. Or in the Parliament in Britain, there's the House of Peers, the House of Lords. They are all supposed to be equal. No? And the com at the beginning means with. So a compeer is somebody who is equal with you, equal to you. Suresh, you will read.
But Nara answered, covering truth with truth. O Aswapati, random, seal their ways, along whose banks your footsteps stray or run. in casual hours or moments of the gods. Yet your blessed stumbling are foreseen above.
Yes, thank you. So Narad answers, and in his answer, he is giving one kind of truth and covering up another kind of truth. He covered truth with truth. He doesn't want to tell the whole story. He's not empowered or allowed to tell the whole story. So he tells something else. Perhaps first of all he's speaking about fate. He says, O Aswapati, the ways that your footsteps take in life, the ways along whose banks, the paths and along whose banks we follow these ways, we may stray, just wander, or we may run eagerly. We may stray perhaps in casual hours, in times when we feel at ease and it doesn't seem to be very important what we do or which choices we make. There are times like that. Or there might be moments of the gods when we have the feeling that our decisions now are very, very critical. It's very, very important now what choice we make. That these are decisive moments of divine intervention. But he says whether it's casual moments or it's moments of the gods, whether you are wandering happily or whether you are running towards a goal, it has all been foreseen. And if you stumble, if you trip up, even that stumbling, you just stumble for a moment and then you set yourself right. Stumbling is when you get your feet mixed up or your toe hits a stone. You don't walk straight on, something happens, you have a slip he says your least stumblings, all your steps and every little stumble, every little pebble that you trip over, all this has been foreseen. It has been seen in advance on the higher levels of consciousness. Gerber.
Inherently, the curves of life are alone, following the stream of time through the unknown. They are led by a cool, calm, immortal speed.
So infallibly, life wanders and curves like this, but there's no real mistake possible because these lines that we follow have been drawn and they follow the stream of time. As time flows forward, we don't know what's going to happen, so it's always leading us into the unknown. But these curves of life are led, they're determined by a clue that the calm immortals are holding on to. This word clue, here it means a ball of thread. And just by using this word, Aurobindo makes us think about the old Greek myth of Theseus, who had to go into the labyrinth to find the monster. And of course he was sent into the labyrinth to find the monster in the hope that he would never come out again. But the princess gave him a clue. She gave him a spool of thread so that he could tie it onto a rock at the entrance to the labyrinth and keep it always with him and follow all the twists and turns and the ways. And then when he'd actually met the monster and killed him, he could find his way out again. So a clue is something that shows you the way. So these curves of life are determined, they are led by a clue which is being held by the immortal beings above who know better than we do the way that life must take. Alice.
This blazoned hieroglyph of prophet mourns, a meaning more sublime in symbols rites, than sealed thought waits too. With this high script, how shall my voice convince the mind of a glyph?
This blazoned hieroglyph of prophet mourns. First, the word hieroglyph. This is the word we use to refer to the characters of the old Egyptian writing that we can still see carved. A glyph means actually something that is carved, a figure or a shape that is carved. And a hieroglyph is, it suggests that this glyph, this sign, has a secret meaning. Not everybody could read the hieroglyphs, and today they are quite mysterious to us still. So Aurobindo uses this word here, and he says blazoned. A blazon is a sign from heraldry. You know, the knights had their shields and their flags and their coats of armor, and those all have meanings also. You know, if you have 3 lions and there's a band this way and here is something else, this is all a kind of secret language which heralds can read. It tells which family the knight comes from, who was his mother, who was his father, is he the eldest son or the 4th son. All this is written somehow in these signs on his coat of arms, it's called. What is Aurobindo referring to here? He says this blazoned hieroglyph, this significant symbol of mournings that are telling something about the future. I think he's referring to Savitri. Savitri's name tells us that she is connected with the sun before it rises above the horizon. She's very, very closely connected with Usha, the goddess of the dawn. That's how the whole poem begins. And there, in that passage also, Aurobindo uses this word, hieroglyph. He says that the colors of the dawn, they are significant, symbolic colors, and they tell something. And that every dawn which is coming is telling us something wonderful about the future. So I think here that this line actually refers to Savitri herself, and that what Narad is saying, this beautiful daughter of yours in all her glory, she is containing within herself and representing in symbols a meaning more sublime than we are able to think, than thought. Thought is as if it has its eyes closed or it's sealed up. It can't open up to the meaning that is contained in this being who is here in front of you. But he says, how can I explain this to you? Of this high script, this symbolic language, these symbols. How can my voice convince the mind of earth? All you human beings, you are thinking in a mental way with the physical brain. You will not be able to understand the significance that Savitri is representing. This is my interpretation of these lines, cryptic lines. Tamarai, will you read? Wiser, heaven's wiser love. Yeah.
Wiser love rejects the moral's prayer, unfettered by the word of his descent, unclouded by the mystics of fire and hope. It pants above the strip of cloud with death. It keeps for her here her privilege of rain.
Thank you. Yes. So now he is telling something else. He says, human beings pray. They think they know what is good for them, what ought to happen, what would be good. No? But heaven is wiser than the human being. And sometimes it says no to the human prayers. No? Heaven, the higher levels of consciousness, are not blinded the way we are, because we want particular things. We desire particular things to happen. And that's like breath on the glasses. You can't see properly because of this desire that's clouding your vision. But heaven is not blinded like that. And he's not blinded. The other things that blind our vision is that we are afraid, this will happen, or that will happen, or we hope very much that thing. So all this is confusing us so that we don't see clearly. But the higher consciousness is not like that. It's unblinded by the breath of human desire. It's unclouded by the mists. You know, sometimes we have mist, Tamarai, in the early morning. It's as if a cloud has come down and the air is thick and we can't see very far. You know this word mist? What is it in Tamil? Yeah, 2 or 3 times a year it happens, no? We wake up in the morning and everything looks different. Yeah? So heaven is not misty like that. It can see very clearly. So it is bending over what happens here on earth. And what is happening here on earth is that there seems to be a struggle going on, as if there's a wrestling, a struggle between what love wants and what death says. In this poem, Savitri represents love, and she has to face death. So he says, heaven is keeping for her, for Savitri, her privilege of pain. A privilege is some special allowance that is made to you, some special favor that is given to you. So it's strange to think that pain and suffering can be a privilege, but sometimes it is. It's some special opportunity or opening that is given to you that won't be given to another person. It's given to you because of your mission and your fate. Privilege of pain. You'll read, Susanna?
A greatness in thy daughter's soul resides that can transform herself and all around, but must cross on stones of suffering to its goal.
Yes, this is clear, no? In Savitri's soul, there resides, there lives a great power, just like Asvapati thought. A greatness is residing in Savitri, and that power is able to transform her and everything all around for the whole earth. But in order to do that, it has to, or she has to, cross on stones of suffering. It's like where you have to cross a river and you have to go from one stone to another stone, to another stone, to another stone. And those stones might be very sharp and painful. She has to cross the stepping stones to achieve her goal, may be very painful for her. Gumsun.
Although designed like a metal over heaven, over heavenly eagle made she sought this air. She too must share the human need of grief, and all her cause of joy transmute to pain.
Yes. He says, look at her. She's designed this form, this body. It's like a beautiful cup to carry immortality. Nectar is the drink of the gods that keeps them immortal. She seems like she's so beautifully formed. And she's actually made of the substance of heaven, of heavenly ether made. But she has come here to live in this earthly air. And she too must share what other human beings need. We need grief and pain. He had explained earlier on why we need grief and pain, to shape us, to make us strong, to make us grow and become clear. So, just like with other human beings, that thing which makes her happy, her love for Satyavan, is going to have to turn into pain. That will be the way that pain will come to her through her love for Satyavan, who is going to have to die. He's going to die in 12 months' time. It's clear, Bhavana? This all her joy transmute to pain. Yeah. So we have to understand must. All her cause of joy, that is her love for Satyavan, must be transmuted. It must be changed to pain. That's necessary for her to fulfill her mission. No? Because she's come to earth, she has to share the human load. Will you read? Bhavana?
The mind of mortal man is led by words. His sight retires behind the walls of thought and looks out only through half-open doors.
So now he's changing the subject again. He's speaking about human beings, and particularly the human mind. So the mind of mortal man, man who is subject to death, it's led by words. We think in words mostly. And our power of inner vision, our sight, withdraws back behind these walls of thought. And it only looks out through half-open doors. So it only sees a little strip of things. No? That comes in the next sentence. But somewhere else he says it's like thought lives in a very small room that has only one tiny window that looks out and just sees just a little bit of God's vast sky. Joel.
He kept the boundless truth in two sky strips, and every strip he takes for whole the heavens.
So it's the same idea. No? That, by looking out like this, he sees a little strip of truth, no? And he thinks that every little bit that he sees, that's the whole truth. Ganga Lakshmi.
Is there an infinite possibility? And give to the plastic vast the name of chance. He sees the long result of an all-wise force, planning the sequence of steps in endless time, but with its wings imagines the senseless chain, or the dead hand of cold necessity. He answered not to the mystic mother's heart. Misses the ardent evenings of her breath, and feels cool, rigid limbs of lifeless blue.
So this is what happens to us human beings. Because of we look out with our minds, actually we are looking out at infinite possibility. Anything can happen in the infinite universe. And that play of infinite possibility he calls chance. We say anything can just happen by chance. It's random, no? The unexpected is always happening to us. We call it chance. Aurobindo says that's the name that we give to this infinite play of possibility. The other thing that we do is we see, what we see are results that have taken a long time to be achieved by an all-wise force, that all-wise force which is working through nature, which is driving evolution and working things out, working out the will of the Supreme. No? That's what we see, the results of her work up to now. But we imagine that, and that all-wise force has planned, she's still planning a sequence of steps in endless time. And every one of those steps is important. It has to happen just so in order to give the willed for result. No? But we think that it's all just happening either by chance, the links in this chain of action, of steps. We imagine that it's either senseless, meaningless, accidental, random, or we think that it has just happened like that because it had to. Cold, the dead hand of cold necessity. necessity, of course, is the Greek idea that nowadays we apply it to the laws of physics. When we say these are the laws of matter, it all has to happen like this. It's all determined from the beginning. So, because we see things like that in that partial way and without really understanding what is happening, then we are not able to respond to that love of the mother who is doing all this. We don't feel the intensity of her love and her will for us, her will to achieve the supreme result. Instead, we feel as if it's the cold, rigid limbs of lifeless law. Talk about a stone law, that it has to be like that. There's no feeling, there's no life in it. It's cold and stiff, rigid. It won't give way one way or the other. This is the way that we are seeing things, and we are missing all the magic that is behind. Martin.
The will of the timeless, working out in time, and the free, absolute steps of cosmic truth. He thinks a dead machine for unconscious state.
Yes. So what's really happening is that the will of the timeless, the one who's beyond time, is getting worked out step by step by step by step in time. No? And at the same time, every one of those steps is absolutely free from the point of view of cosmic truth. But from our point of view, the human being tends to think that all this is mechanical, or it's just fate, it's some kind of unconscious determinism, necessity. It's fixed like that. We don't see either the purpose or the freedom which is operating at every moment.
A magician's formulas have made matter slow, and while they last, all things by them are bound. But the spirit's consent is needed for each act, and freedom walks in the same pace with law.
This is such an interesting sentence. A magician's formulas. A magician, of course, is somebody who does something magic, something that we think is impossible. Some people call this magician Maya, the divine power of making the impossible possible. This magician has made the laws of matter. And as long as the laws of matter last, all beings in the material universe are bound by those laws of matter. So there is a kind of necessity, there is a kind of determinism. But, he says, the spirit's consent is needed for each act. So there is freedom. The spirit is free to say yes or no. So freedom is walking in the same pace with the law. They are like two companions holding hands and walking step by step forward together. The law aspect of it, of what we call material nature, and the freedom aspect of the spirit, whose consent is needed for each little thing. So all here can change if the magician choose. the magician says, let it be different, it can be different. And then he tells us about the human mind, our human role is, because we can consciously participate in this process. No? He said,
Take here the magician as God.
I would say as Maya. That is, that's the power of God to do impossible things, to make impossible things possible. Maya and magic, they come from the same root. No? Well, I think this about human mind and all the rest of it we'll leave for next time. So let's just read these lines together. Anybody has anything they want to ask? There are many very subtle things in this passage.
Our access to the possibility to change the laws of matter is prayer. By prayer we can go beyond matter's law to the magician who is forming matter, and he can dissolve the laws.
Yes, if that's what he says, if human will could be made one with God's, if we can unite with the divine will, then we can collaborate. If human thought could echo the thoughts of God, man he doesn't mean it's possible that he could. He says he will be able to be all-knowing and omnipotent. So it's by realizing our divine part, our divine possibility, and becoming one with the will and the thought of the Supreme, then we can become his instruments to get things done here on earth.
That was the thing given in Mother's agenda last 2 weeks of news and notes. Awake will, that was Mother says, the divine will.
Yes. And that's the way in which our will is truly free, if we are united with our own deepest reality, our oneness with the divine, then spontaneously, we don't have to force ourselves to do the right thing. Very, very spontaneously, we will and think and act and speak the right thing.
I don't understand really. We see today without machine.
Well, he speaks about the will of the timeless working out in time, and it's working out in time in the free absolute steps of cosmic truth. But the human being, because of his limited way of looking at things, he thinks that it's just prakriti, it's just a dead machinery, or an unconscious fate. We don't see it the way that it really is. Okay, we go back to the break on page 456. Then Asvapati answered to the seer, "Is then the spirit ruled by an outward world? O seer, is there no remedy within? But what is fate, if not the spirit's will after long time fulfilled by cosmic force? I deemed a mighty power had come with her. Is not that power the high compeer of fate? But Narad answered, covering truth with truth, O Asvapati, random seem the ways along whose banks your footsteps stray or run in casual hours or moments of the gods. Yet your least stumblings are foreseen above. Infallibly the curves of life are drawn, following the stream of time through the unknown. They are led by a clue the calm immortals keep. This blazoned hieroglyph of prophet mourns a meaning more sublime in symbols writes than sealed thought wakes to. But of this high script how shall my voice convince the mind of earth? Heaven's wiser love rejects the mortal's prayer. Unblinded by the breath of his desire, unclouded by the mists of fear and hope, it bends above the strife of love with death. It keeps for her privilege of pain. A greatness in thy daughter's soul resides that can transform herself and all around, but must cross on stones of suffering to its goal. Although designed like a nectar cup of heaven, of heavenly ether made, she sought this air. She too must share the human need of grief, and all her cause of joy transmute to pain. The mind of mortal man is led by words. His sight retires behind the walls of thought and looks out only through half-opened doors. He cuts the boundless truth into sky strips, and every strip he takes for all the heavens. He stares at infinite possibility and gives to the plastic vast the name of chance. He sees the long results of an all-wise force planning a sequence of steps in endless time, but in its links imagines a senseless chain or the dead hand of cold necessity. He answers not to the mystic mother's heart, misses the ardent heavings of her breast, and feels cold, rigid limbs of lifeless law. The will of the timeless working out in time, in the free absolute steps of cosmic truth, he thinks a dead machine or unconscious fate. A magician's formulas have made matter's laws, and while they last, all things by them are bound. But the Spirit's consent is needed for each act, and freedom walks in the same pace with law. All here can change if the magician choose. If human will could be made one with God's, if human thought could echo the thoughts of God, man might be all-knowing and omnipotent. But now he walks in nature's doubtful ray.